What's going on YouTube? This is Ribo at the bench, and today I've got, I don't really know what to call this. It's kind of a cutter carry, it's kind of a first look, it's kind of a re-review, it's a lot of different things. Probably a quick video. But this is the Spyderco Slysz Bowie, I think is how you pronounce it. It is a knife that is very, very popular. It's got a lot of lore built up over the years, and it has always been incredibly difficult and very expensive to get because it's been discontinued for a number of years. So this is a re-release from KnifeJoy. It is an M390 re-release, and it has these anode blue KnifeJoy exclusive handles, which are interesting. And so this was a very limited release, one of those things where, like, if you're not there the second it goes live and continue clicking for the next 10 minutes straight, you probably didn't get one. So I happened to be free and happened to be successful in grabbing one. And honestly didn't really grab it because I wanted it necessarily, but I did want to take a look at it. I did want to see it, and then I knew some people who were looking for one and weren't able to get them, so figured I can pass it along. However, very excited to take a look at it. Just came in a day or two ago, and so I've had a little bit of time with it, and I just figured I would give my thoughts. So really quick, this is not going to be a full review. I have previously reviewed this knife, and pretty much my thoughts remain the same. So this review is really just to highlight anything that's changed. I will link that video below. Additionally, I want to say, typically with my knife, watch, and flashlight reviews, I really use my stuff. I try to carry it and really develop some opinions on it before I do a review. This is a little bit different. So I certainly did that with the original plain gray tie version of the Slysz Bowie a year or so ago. With this one, just full disclaimer here, I've not really carried this one a great deal. Have not used it because this is not a knife that's going to be staying with me. And I kind of already know how it does a lot of the fundamental things. What I really wanted to see from this was the fit and finish, and kind of anything that had changed. So just a disclaimer there, trying to keep this one fairly pristine so I can pass it along to somebody who could get some good use out of it. Really only one size comparison, and it's really just a side-by-side that I want to do. So this is the Spidey Chef, same designer, very, very similar knives in a lot of ways. Really the big difference between these two has been this one's not available and this one is. And so there's a pretty big price difference as well. I think I paid around $200 for the Spidey Chef, and I paid $400 for the Slysz Bowie here. And so, but they are similar knives. They're pretty interesting side by side. You can see a lot of the same design characteristics because they have the same designer. But just kind of wanted to get them on screen together. My preference, to be honest, aesthetically is hands down the Spidey Chef. I find it to be more, in terms of design, a lot more balanced. The Bowie, to me, has always looked a bit back heavy. The blade, while cool kind of on its own right, and I really love the blade, and probably, I don't know, maybe a bit more practical than the Spidey Chef. Like if you were to look at it just like this, when paired with the handle, to me visually it just doesn't really do it. And so I kind of understand like this half of the knife, and I understand this half of the knife, but you put them together, it's just not my thing. With the Spidey Chef, like, it's really funky, both on this side of the knife and on this side of the knife, but together for me, you got the kind of yin yang thing. It works. And I guess I'll show the back as well, because these are fairly similar on the back side as well, and with the wire clip. So there you go. Okay, so let's get Spidey Chef out of here, and let me talk just for a minute or two about the KnifeJoy exclusive M390 Bowie. So first of all, just some good things. I'm not going to go through everything again. Just kind of watch my original review. But the action on this is really incredible. I was impressed with that on the original, and of course I just failed to deploy. But the action is really fantastic. I'm a big fan of that. I think that really impressed me. It was better than I even remembered on the original. And so I like that. I'm not going to do it, but you can Spidey flick it, you can regular flick it, you can slow roll the deploy. The knife is big enough to where it just feels very, very comfortable in the hand, and so you're really not going to have an uncomfortable position. So I mean, all the things are good that were good about the original. You can see a fair amount of moisture on this. I just got finished cutting the grass, and I'm kind of a little bit sweaty right now, so I do apologize for that. But the knife is great, right? A lot of the things that people love about the Bowie are there. It's a fantastic tool, and I think that if it were a production knife that you could get, I would certainly carry one fairly often. But what I really wanted to talk about was the differences between this version and the original, and why I actually really dislike this version. So a couple things. Number one, and this is really just visual, but it has been probably the primary thing that's annoyed me about this knife since I opened it out of the box, and it was honestly the biggest disappointment to me on this. Now, I'm kind of a boring guy. I like my Chris Reeve plain Jane versions. I like plain tie. I love the Spidey Chef, and I love the finish on the Spidey Chef. So like, maybe this is just me. But I was really disappointed with the ano on this, and honestly, I don't know if it's the quality of the ano job or if it's just the nature, but I seem to have seen better versions of anodization in the past. You may not be able to tell this on camera, but the ano just feels very streaky to me. It shows not only fingerprints, but there will just be like these random darker spots that don't seem to be moisture, like they don't dry out. It has looked very streaky out of the box since I got it. It's looked almost like blurple, not really blue, more of a purple. You can already see where the color is different around the clip than it is up here, and certainly some of this is probably moisture, but that's what you get for living in the Carolinas. But all in all, it has not looked great to me. And just kind of, I don't know, took away some of the, opening the box experience to me. So, if this were a user knife, it wouldn't really be that big of a deal. Again, if I had paid $200 for this or $250 or something like that, I really wouldn't care, because it's something that I could beat up, and I think it would actually look kind of cool. Now, this is probably a little bit too close to purple for my taste, but if it was something that I wouldn't mind getting scratched up and whatnot, sure, whatever. But this is a very limited release of a very, very popular knife that is going to be very, very expensive on the secondary market. And there are a lot of people who are going to want one of these for their collections. And so when you have a knife like that, for me personally, like, I just feel weird using it. And if I'm not using my knives, I really don't want them around. So it's just not going to be a knife that stays in my collection. Because of that, the ano job really kind of frustrates me, because it makes me like never want to handle the knife for fear of scratching it up. But also it's been, I don't know, it's just been kind of frustrating to have a knife of this quality that's so streaky and non-uniform. And again, this is aesthetics. This may just totally be me, but this has just really annoyed me ever since I got it. One other surprisingly frustrating thing about this, and I suspect that perhaps this may wear in over time. I'm not really giving it the benefit of the doubt there, but there almost seems to be some lock stick, which I was really surprised by, because you do have the lock bar insert right there. But every time I go to disengage this, I get some grinding right there. And I have not disassembled. I don't know what's making that. I don't know if maybe it's, I don't know if maybe there is a piece of the lock bar that's making contact, or if, that'll break in over time. But again, on such an expensive knife, and one that does have the lock bar insert, which I think you can see right there, if I could get it in focus, that level of that level of lock stick or whatever you want to call that was really surprising and kind of disappointing. Now, I fully expect that on the Spidey Chef. I mean, that's kind of the major complaint about the Spidey Chef. It doesn't really bother me. I guess the reason it doesn't really bother me on this, and it really does bother me on this, is that this is like twice as expensive, and probably because it has all the mystique behind it. But that was the second thing after kind of the aesthetics of this that I just couldn't get past. Like I could not believe how much of that lock stick I'm feeling every time I go to disengage. Now, to be fair, I'm usually carrying some kind of course, I fail to deploy every time. I have not failed it off camera yet, but of course I get on camera and act like I've never opened a knife before. But honestly, like it may just be because I've been carrying a Chris Reeve 31 or Nkosi, something with the ceramic detent ball, and that's so freaking smooth that this just feels really bad. But it is definitely there. It's not my imagination. It is not the best frame lock that I've ever experienced. Oh, let's kill it. Sorry about that. But anyway, that really surprised me as well. And so that was a little bit disappointing. Again, it might break in over time. And I'm very interested to see if anyone else had the same issue. But definitely annoyed me. Finally, one little minor complaint. I have noticed that when I go to open this knife, in a couple of different ways, I tend to push this pocket clip, which is not a big deal except for the fact that it's going to mark up that anode job, which is not a huge deal, but the pocket clip does feel a little bit flimsy just because I can feel it moving around. Again, I love the Spyderco wire clip, but I have read some user complaints already on this that it feels a little bit cheap for this version of the knife. For me, it's practical, it's functional. I like the clip a lot. I definitely like it on the Spidey Chef here, but I also don't feel naturally any pocket clip movement when I go to deploy this knife. However, when I go to deploy this, I have noticed that clip moving around. So it does, I can say like from that standpoint, it does feel a little bit cheaper than something like the Spidey Chef. All right, so that is it. Again, this isn't really a cut or carry. It's kind of a re-review, kind of a first look, kind of just me rambling. If I were to review this knife right now, like this would be a strong cut because there's just no way I'm paying that much for a knife that I'm gonna feel weird about using, and it's gonna really annoy me. Plus I don't love the blue, like blah, blah, blah. The knife itself, the design, all of that, like the materials, excellent. I would totally carry one of these. I would have one in the collection. I would use it regularly if it were just a normal production Spyderco. It's not, so I don't and I won't, and I don't really have any interest in this one. So this one's moving on, and I'm a little bit disappointed in specifically this iteration of it, to be honest. But again, that's just me. If you've gotten your hands on one of these, let me know what you think in the comments. But interested to hear other reactions. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.